Okay, welcome everyone to our hottest team building transfer 2022. What an incredible start to this year. It's really quite phenomenal. I don't know about you, but I've hit the ground running this week. We had an amazing launch of our online community hubs yesterday, and the lead up to these great events that we've started was really before Christmas. So having these in the diary and ready to go has been fantastic. Those of you who don't know me, I'm Lyn Hawkins. I'm the National Director of Business Women Australia. I'm actually based on the West Coast of this country, and I'm one of the founders of Business Women Australia. I'd like to acknowledge the country in which we are meeting. It's sacred land that's been lived, danced and celebrated on for over 120,000 years in parts of this country. And we pay our respects to all Indigenous elders, past, present and emerging. And we celebrate our Indigenous sisters in business. I'm actually sitting on Whadjuk country of the Noongar Nation over here in Perth. Business Women Australia vision is really coming to life. Over the last couple of years, we really are demonstrating a new way of collaborating. And I really think that we are the #1 collaborative business, a social enterprise that's been built on really focusing on the needs of Australian women in business. And that vision is really achieved by helping each other achieve goals and dreams and building this fantastic network. We're very influential in what we do. We have a thing where no one says no to Business Women Australia. So we can open doors, we can try things out, we can get people on board, we can do whatever it is we want to do. This is our brand, we all own it. And I really want everyone to think about that and how they might like to be a part of helping improve the visibility and power of this business women's movement. It's not just for entrepreneurs. We have a lot of predominantly executives and women in C-suite roles and in senior roles in corporate and not-for-profit areas. We have women on boards. We also have a lot of women who are in the emerging and startup space starting to want to rub shoulders with women who are already successfully scaling their businesses. So it's the magic, I think, is really in the mix. And as a result of that, we really focus on 5 areas of development: leadership, business improvement, personal growth, influence and profile, and of course, connecting, and within that, the development of our community. Our shared values is really what brings us together. We talk about being like-minded, and I always have a bit of a challenge about that, because I don't think we really are like-minded, because we all come from different backgrounds, sectors, different states, different international and national experiences. But what does bring us together is our shared values. Our shared values around the belief that together we can do more. Our shared values around inclusion and diversity, and the importance of having that difference at the table. The values around courage and being honest and collaborating with open mind and consciously caring about ourselves and about each other, and bringing some focus on a positive energy and optimism for the future. We've really started to look at these values and think, well, what else is there that's missing? And we really are keen to hear from you. So if there's a value that really is strong for you and where you're at right now, pop it in the chat box. I'd really love to hear if there's a value that is missing from our list that you'd like to see us embrace. Benefits of being in a community is really a lot around the connections that you make and the friendships, the deep friendships of women who understand what it is to be a woman leading and trailblazing in business. And I think that those professional friendships really give us the opportunity to have roundtables like this, where we can tap into expertise like we are with Jessica, but also bring our own knowledge and expertise to the table in a really generous sharing pursuit. So knowledge, I think sharing is a really important benefit. We're all lifelong learners. None of us are perfect. We're, as you can see, in terms of the way that I've been so looking forward to this event, and still today I managed to think it was an hour later. So I'm so glad I'd logged on before I took the dog out for a walk, or I wouldn't have heard you speaking in my boardroom. But welcome to everyone. We really want to have you all here as a part of our community. We couldn't do these sorts of things without collaborating with our partners. Our phenomenal partners do so much in the background. Catco Enterprise and all our web development, all that management and that time under the leadership of Kathy Smith is really quite powerful. Our accounts team is run by Solo Accounts under the direction of Donna Vincent. She's probably the first fintech entrepreneur in Australia. She's got the Solo Accounts app, which is a fantastic sort of cash-based accounting or bookkeeping system for solopreneurs. Torrens Uni have been amazing, and Jess has actually been the person that's instrumental in managing that partnership over the last few years, and we have awarded quite a few scholarships for women who have wanted to be university qualified, and 2 of those have been fully funded MBAs, so we're very proud of that partnership. My team at Hawkins Marketing, Jess's team at Intact Teams, Anne-Marie Cross, our podcasting queen, our Fire Up coaching partners who we've got the accredited coaching pathway courses. 3 Drops, our favourite wine from the Great Southern of Western Australia. Jo is dying to get over to Melbourne, Canberra and Sydney and Brisbane this year. She has to keep cancelling her wine tasting BWA soirees, but we're going to get there. We're going to keep trying for that. And, of course, the wonderful Vita Carlino and Inspiration Source, who are our spiritual guides and the ones who bring out a lot of our mindfulness and soul sort of sisterhood circles into the mix. So we really are proud of this great sort of group behind us. For those of you who are members, please be reminded you've got access to all these free courses. There's thousands of dollars worth of short courses. They're evidence-based learning. You can do them at your own pace. I think they're around an hour to 90 minutes each, and they are available to all our members at no cost. So if you've lost your link for that, just get in contact with me. And of course, we're really encouraging, if you are keen on developing your coaching skills and your coaching style of leadership, to actually do an accredited course with us and Fire Up is really powerful. I'm just in the process of handing in my accreditations for my Cert 4. I wish I'd done this years ago, not only because it's making me a better leader, I think it's also making me a better partner and a better mum. So I really highly recommend for any of you who have the energy and the opportunity to even be sponsored by your organisation or your own investment. It's a 6-month program for a Cert 4. The diploma, which I'm starting soon, is another 6 months. It's ICF pathway as well. We also have a Business Foundations course that Anne-Marie Cross has developed, and that's for a lot of our management consultants and our coaches have really struggled to identify how to define their go-to-market, their services, and how they price their services to build their scalable business. So she's made this available to Businesswomen Australia members at a very discounted rate. And, of course, we'll hear more about disc flow and how Jess is using that in team building. But we have a disc flow course that Jess is running, and that kicks off on the 8th of February. So if you're interested in that, make sure you let Jess know. So joining as a member, God, we'd love more members. I think we've had about 5 or 6 new members yesterday sign up just as a result of what we've been doing so early in this year. We really are excited about the movement and how it's growing. If you're not sure about what kind of membership is right for you, I'd be very happy to have a chat to you. And of course, as always, we are, and thank you to Kathy Smith and the team here, we're very active on social. We have a group on LinkedIn. It's free to join if you're not already a LinkedIn group member. You don't have to be a financial member of Businesswomen Australia to be a group member on LinkedIn. Follow our company page. Have a look at our website. There's so much information on there, and our calendar of events is always up to date. We have a Facebook page, so follow us there. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. And here is my contact details, lyn@businesswomenaustralia.com.au. And I would love to hear your ideas and answer any questions you might have. And if you are interested in being on the disc flow accreditation course. That's on the 8th of February. We also have an online Q&A with Care Australia. We're actually hearing about the Her Circle campaign in the lead up to International Women's Day on Thursday, the 9th of Feb. That's free to jump on. So please, I'd love to see all you ladies jump on. It'd be a nice chance for us to catch up again. And also in Perth, we're very lucky to be able to have chats, cheese and wine on the 10th of Feb, all things going well. The borders are opening on the 6th of February, so anything can happen. And I think we've got Kerry Nobes on this call. We've got Monday, the 21st of Feb, our online community hub. The first one is starting. It's a 6-month program. They'll be meeting every Monday, one Monday a month. And Kerry's facilitating that online community hub. So if that's something that you want to do too, it's a much more of a deep dive, peer-to-peer relationship building. It's almost like a support group, but online. So if that sounds like something that you really want to do and get to know women a lot deeper and a lot better within a smaller group environment, I recommend you have a chat to Kerry about that one. Or jump on now. I think there's only a few more places. So that's, I'll stick that in the chat box when when I hand over to Jess. So introduction to Jess. Oh my gosh, you've probably had done your research anyway. She's, as she said, she's originally from Germany. She's lived and worked all around the world. When I courted Jess for years before she agreed to come on board as a leader in our Melbourne hub, and then as a shareholder in Business Women Australia. So she's just amazing. I've always been a massive fan of how she's actually had this amazing knack of blending into any culture and helping people from different backgrounds. And she's really utilised that superpower of hers to maximise the potential of others and help them be effective. And as a result, she's very highly sought after, working with hundreds of leaders around the world, helping them build high-performance teams and helping them to create those workplace cultures where people are happy and productive. So her book is amazing. She's published Lead the Future. It's a great read. I recommend anyone on this call jump on her website, order that book. And it's very inspiring, but it's got a lot of practical guides to it in helping you lead change. And a lot of what we're covering, today, really you need, I think it's almost like a Bible that's a lot deeper and gives you time to sort of sit through and work through how the things that she raises in that book can apply to you and your own teams. So she's also weaves a lot of that DISC understanding into her sort of pragmatic ways of doing things in her workplace. And she's used DISC for over 10 years, so she's very well experienced in this. And I think when DISC Flow came on board, as bringing in the emotional intelligence aspects to the DISC, I think she was very excited to be the DISC Flow partner for Australia. And she's been that since its inception in 2021. So this is pretty hot off the heels of change. And I think that those of you who are here today are clearly early adopters and trailblazers in your own right. So this is going to be a great roundtable. Jess, my beautiful friend, I love Jess for the phenomenal energy and focus she brings. She's looked after our Melbourne community. She just looks after our learning and leadership development here in BWA. So without further ado, I will hand over to Jess.
Oh, Lyn, thank you so much. That was such a lovely introduction, and it actually means that I don't have to add much because I think you sort of almost covered it all. And feel free to ask any other questions about me. I'm wearing two hats today, and one is, of course, Intact Teams and some of my corporate experience as well, because as leaders and as consultants and leadership coaches, we show up as a whole person. So I really draw on the change I've been through in my own life, from moving from country to country, having lived and worked in so many cities and countries, having worked for small to medium-sized companies or family business to large multinationals, and then leading large teams and small teams. And you really draw on the experience and I bring this into my work. So some of the, sort of trends and background, the problems that we're facing, what we're seeing from our work, stems from the experience I have there. But of course, I also wear the hat of being the DISC Flow Australia partner, because I do want to present and introduce this amazing trend and this amazing tool to you. I have been using, as Lyn said, I have been using DISC, the behavior diagnostic, for years and years and years. I actually did my first one in the 90s when I was a sales manager at Regis back in Germany, and it still had graphs and it was quite clunky, but the psychology was the same, and the way DISC has been built. I mean, we've been talking about, behavior since 400 BC. So it's really ingrained in the way we do things. But yeah, the DISC tool as a diagnostic for you to have a startup conversation has obviously been developed massively over the last few years. So I'm really proud to have been asked to be partner for DISC Flow Australia, which is a new tool. And I talk all about it in a bit more detail, because it's just so helpful. DISC helps me, and I love, Lyn, how you said actually, coaching and using DISC makes me a better human being, because I understand myself better. I can relate to other people better. And I always say, if anything, when you use DISC and you read your report, you use it at home and start creating better relationship with your husband, your kids, and maybe some of your friends, because it makes you step back, create self-awareness, and then lean into others. So I love that you recognize that as well, Lyn. But it's the most powerful tool that we're using right now in the workplace, because it's, simple yet not simplistic. So I will talk about this as well. But the reason why Lyn and I came together is not just talking about the tool. We wanted to help you to have practical takeaways today that you can straight away put in, bring into your team. And we're recording this because we know there's a few of you, or there's a few here who will now watch the recording and they can't be here today because it's still school holidays. And everyone is different, right? I know some of you work within organizations, you're leaders of teams or leaders of departments or leaders of organizations, and some of you are consultants. And it's important to understand, both of our worlds that are a little bit the same and so much different as well. And everyone is different. So what I would like to do is actually, because we are also a small group here, I would like you to just take yourself off mute and tell us three things. Your name, which we can also see, of course. Where are you dialing in from? What is it you do for work? And I'm really interested to hear, because today, of course, it's all about developing and leading teams and looking at team engagement. What are the challenges that you're seeing at the moment as a consultant, working with clients, leading your own team, or maybe even in your organization? What are the challenges you're seeing at work on an organizational level right now? So where are you dialing in from? What do you do? And what are the challenges you see? Because I want to be able to refer back to that and sort of mold and amend, the content to what's most helpful for you. And just to save some time, I'm just going to go around the room, and I'm going to call on Carrie Nopes. Carrie, nice to see you again. And nice to have you here.
Yeah, thanks. It's nice to be here. Very excited to learn a little bit more about flow. So I'm in Victoria, so had the lovely opportunity to have lunch with Jess pre-Christmas, which when we got our BWA lunch up and going after a few false starts, but that was awesome. I work as a facilitator. I have just completed with Lyn the coaching course through BWA, which I loved and learnt so much. I actually am DISC accredited, Jess, so I've worked with DISC for back through the 90s and used that a lot in my leadership training, but also I have recently done HBDI as an interesting alternative as well. So challenges for me, I am working with a lot of emerging leaders, and that opportunity for them to really engage their teams, particularly in Victoria, with the virtual workplace being pretty much everywhere, and all the struggles that go with that, and new leaders not understanding, as you're going to go through, their behavioural profiles and how they're interacting with others. So I'm really looking forward for a refresher. Thanks.
Right. Thank you so much, Carrie. And you're certainly not alone with the challenge you see there. We see and hear this all the time. Thank you for sharing. And Carmel, what about you?
Hi, so my name's Carmel Power. I am Chief Sales Officer with Quintus Sandalwood. And the greatest challenges, I guess, that I'm seeing is it's probably just not being able to have face-to-face meetings. It's something that a couple of years ago, or right at the beginning of the whole pandemic, I said, right, we don't slow down. Everything goes online, goes virtual, we keep going. And I think that was great for a while. But as now it's 2 years, and I think we just haven't evolved enough in the way we manage virtual meetings, in the technology that we use, in our etiquette maybe in online, and how we're inclusive or not intentionally inclusive enough. And how do you actually build teams? So my team is about 15 different sales representatives based in I'm not sure, probably about 7 or 8 countries. So we also have significant challenges around that in terms of just diversity, culture, time zones, all kinds of stuff, right? So yeah, so it's just managing, I guess, the sum of all of those things to actually build a cohesive team that feels connected.
Yes, yeah. And it's interesting that, Carmel, and you alluded to this as well, carrying this new world, right? Your work is quite complex because you are adding, virtual, you're adding international, so you're adding cultural layers as well, not just, natural behavior. But, I do think there's something in there that, gives you some ideas around, how, DISC as a tool, as a start of conversation can help to build cohesive teams. Because if anything, it's just accelerated when we can't see people. When people are under pressure and they're out of their comfort zone is when they feel most comfortable in their behavior style, but also, what the challenges are bringing there. So, there's definitely something in there for you as well, but always super happy to just jump off a line as well and, look at that quite, complex situation there. Thanks for sharing, Carmel. Andrea, what about you?
Hey, everyone. I am currently in Melbourne. I work for Movember, the men's health charity. The head office is in Melbourne, but we have obviously been also working virtually for the majority of the last 2 years, some of which I've been back home in Perth. So that's been great. And yeah, I've decided to move back to Perth. So I won't be working for Movember anymore, which is will be a big change for me. I've been there for close to 7 years and it's been an amazing place to work. And I'm very aligned with the mission. So, but yeah, I think both of the previous people who've spoken have said pretty much what I was going to say. I don't lead a team, but I have been led and I can see the challenges that they have had. And I had a really amazing manager throughout the pandemic who was super caring, had extra meetings with all of us. So instead of every 2 weeks, we had one every week, which I think was really useful, even if it was a bit shorter, just to touch base and kind of check in on how we were going. So I think that's one thing you can do if you haven't already, although it makes it difficult if you've got 15 people internationally to do that every week. You spend your whole week meeting your team. But I think the challenges are also that people have changed with the pandemic. That's one thing I've been reflecting on recently. So someone you may have known as an employee 2 years ago, actually their personality might have changed. I've noticed that my working personality has changed. And when we tried to go back to the office earlier in 2021, before everything got bad again in Melbourne, it was a big transition to go from working from home to working back in the office, which I thought I would absolutely just want to dive back into because that was my personality. But then the pandemic has changed me to become somewhat more solitary than I ever have been. So I had to learn how to do that. But I didn't even do it on purpose, to be honest. So it's interesting how we adapt. change. So I'm interested to hear about this tool to see how I haven't been exposed to it before, and it sounds really interesting. So I'm looking forward to it, hearing about it. And in my new role, I might be managing people. So yeah, I'm here to prepare, I guess.
Great. Well, welcome to Perth to start off with. I'm sure Lyn will connect with you straight away because, you know, she's based in Perth as well. And, you know, she's like our BW mother hand. So looking after people. I love how you say, actually, you know, I think people have changed. And I'm not sure if their personality changed. I think our personality parts of our personality shift. You know, when you think of an iceberg, and I don't have that in my presentation today, but, you know, I always use it when we, you know, look at the foundations of DISC. Yeah. So when we are, you know, if we were an iceberg, the observable parts of us, what's, you know, on top of the iceberg, and it's only small, you know, is our behavior, you know, how we show up. And what's underneath is much, much bigger. And that's our beliefs and experience, how we grow up, nature and nurture, right? And under there, you know, lies our values and our emotions as well. And I think what happened, Andrea, throughout the pandemic is that people really reconnected very strongly to their value and got really clear on what's important to them. Yeah. So you've probably always felt solace in solitary, you know, or solitude, but it matches your, you know, environment and the emotions that you want to feel right now, where you feel safe a lot more. So I think our approach to understanding ourselves, that has changed a lot. And it's like an inflection point. I think for so many people, they're like, actually, do you know what? I'm moving back to Perth, getting a job, and I'm, you know, I'm happy to, you know, be a bit different, right? And it's amazing how that came about, right? So I love it. And this, it helps you to understand this, you know, it's about being able to understand who you are, because everything underneath the iceberg actually drives your behavior, especially when you're under pressure. So it's already sort of that proof in the pudding that you made decisions in your life that, you know, now have impact on, you know, how your life goes. But you really, you know, you dive deep into what's going on underneath. So I'm sure it's going to help you. Yeah. Thank you. Ellen, nice to meet you. What about you, Ellen?
Hi, everyone, and apologies for my appearance. Lyn, I'm a bit like you. It's going to be a 39-degree day here in Perth today. So I thought, I'll get out for my walk, run, hobble as early as I can. And I'll end up sort of going a little bit further than I probably should have. And then by the time I was coming back, it was a really, really hot kind of thing. I thought, let me just quickly have a shower, I'll tie up my hair, sit down. And so I thought, I'll just keep myself on mute and you won't see me. But so apologies. I have until fairly recently been working sort of full-time in people in sort of culture type roles, mainly within the legal profession. And I'm just transitioning out of that now into more of some consulting work. Again, probably aimed very much sort of around professional services, the legal profession, accounting, those kinds of things. And I've certainly used DISC a really long time ago around recruitment and profiling and things like that, and a little bit around sort of team building. But again, this was quite some time ago. And, you know, in that context, I'm really keen to understand it a little bit more now as a tool around, as you say, quite rightly, understanding ourselves and in a deeper sense, because the more of that we can understand, the better we're able to utilize the skills that we have, but also around working with and developing high performance teams. I think that's probably something that we're all, you know, wanting to have whatever tools we can to be able to do that. So that was where I came from. So yeah, very keen to know a little bit more about this. I'm based in Perth, so Andrea, welcome back to Perth when you get here. I'm sure it would be very hard for you to leave Melbourne, but you'll love coming back to Perth. It's just beautiful. And there is just so much in the way of opportunity here that you will find something very special, I'm sure.
Thank you. I grew up in Perth, so it's my original home. Yeah, thank you though.
And what do you see as the main challenge at the moment when it comes to leaders and leading their teams?
I think that it's difficult to say, because I think that varies from, organization to organization and industry to industry. I think that all too often there's been such a focus on the work and the operational skills to do the work or get the work done. And there hasn't been the importance or the emphasis on the team to facilitate that work being done efficiently. So there's factors like engagement, which are potentially low, or poor relationships within teams that cause inefficiencies. And oftentimes people move into leadership positions purely because of them being the more experienced practitioner, and not necessarily having developed some of the leadership skills along the way. So there's a bit of a lag, I think, oftentimes around really, acknowledging the importance of some of those skills and creating the desire and the awareness to want to develop them, and then the time and effort to develop them, and so on. I think that that's a challenge.
Yes, yeah. And I couldn't agree more, and there's some segues in there for me as well. Thank you so much, for your
thank you. I will.
And no worry, and no apologies from here on, right? We're all human and we don't care what we look like. It was a wonderful contribution. Belinda, nice to see you again. We saw each other like, gosh, a year ago, I think. How are you?
Hi, Jess. Hi, everyone. Belinda, I'm General Manager of Boutique Advisors, a financial planning practice in Subiaco in Perth. So yes, Lyn and Ellen, I hear you on the warm weather. I had a lay-in this morning, and my husband's taking the dog out later, so I avoided my walk. We've got a fabulous team here at Boutique, and I think probably the challenges that we find is around, like Ellen mentioned, with the engagement and making sure that more so finding out, we put these calls out to staff all the time to say what's important to you, what do you want to do. We try and do staff surveys, but I find that we really don't get a lot out of them. Everyone is very open door policy, comfortable with talking amongst the team, but I think sometimes it's really worthwhile. We want to retain our staff because they're all fabulous, and we are growing as well. So new people that do come on board, we want to make sure that they're on target and on the same kind of trajectory that we are as a business. And I guess for us as leaders, we find it's easy to really be passionate and love what we do. And, the directors and myself and other people who've been here for a long time, but it's the newer staff members that we want to sort of try and get them excited as what we are, I guess, and then also make sure that we're supporting them and giving back to them where we can as well, so they feel like they are valued and a really strong member of the team, I guess.
Yes, yeah. Oh, thank you, Belinda. And the what I'm talking about today doesn't go so much into it has a little bit, but retention and employee journey. But I'll contact you offline, because I did a webinar on turning the Great Resignation to Great Retention in December, and it was really popular. And there are a lot of ideas in there for you to connect. We just can't cover everything today because there's a bit of a focus on DISC, of course.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Again,
and we've not done anything like the DISC or anything with our team. So I think something like that would be. We've sort of come to a point now. We're sitting at, I think, 28 in the business, so we are growing, and we're probably looking to be maybe 30, 32 by mid next year. So
that's grown.
Yes. That's good. Keeps me busy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, definitely look at bringing the tool in. That's for sure. And I'll contact you offline as well. Great, thank you.
No worries.
And Tash, last but not least, we can't see you, but I think you're here. There you are. Now we can see you.
Yeah, no, I'm here.
I'm Tash. I'm from Perth, and I have an accounting firm in Inaloo, and we have a team of 20 between here and the Philippines. And really for us, I wanted to sort of learn a little bit more about how to manage the team in the changing world that we find ourselves in, where we have a combination of people working from home, people working in the office, and really about how we can try and maintain our culture and our great vibe and I guess things that we've got going on in our team when we're not all together and seeing each other every day.
Great, wonderful. And Tasha, if there's any specific questions, let me know, because I'm going to take probably about 20 minutes to 30 minutes just on some content. And I'm going to go through, the challenges we're seeing right now, some of the trends, and then I'll talk about DISC as, the hottest development tool, and obviously about, using the tool or becoming certified. But we also have enough time. So I feel that some of you, might want to get some tips. Okay, so how do I use this now in this new world, and how can I engage? So we can then share some practical tips, and we'll just have an open floor or a small group. So thank you very much, Tasha. Thank you very much again for being open. It really helps me to understand what are the challenges you see. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm just going to see, I've got access, which is great. And I will also share sound. Hopefully that works, because I do have a video later on. Here we go. So we've done introductions, and I've asked you about your own challenges as well. And what I actually want to start off with, and this is part of, and Carrie, I think you were in the, turning the great resignation to the great retention webinar. And it's not a repetition of this. I just took some of those challenges out because, they fit so well into what we actually see everywhere, because we have to name the elephant in the room, and that's about that people and employees at the moment are having intentions. Yeah, you heard about the Great Resignation, and I don't know if it particularly is a challenge for you right now, but the intention from a survey that Employment Hero conducted in October last year, so it's still absolutely valid, is that 40% of Australian workers plan to look for a new role in the next 6 months. So that goes into, of course, 2022, and 15% of employees are currently on the hunt for a new role. And the reason why this is important is to know is, even if 15% of your employees, are looking for a new role for whatever reason, and we see this trend certainly being stronger, after, the break in 2022, because I think people are really ready to have a break and now looking at their options. And it sort of goes back a little bit about, Andrea, what we said, people connect with their values and see, hey, what's important to me? Will I move to Perth and lose my beloved job? Actually, yes, because it's important to me to go somewhere. So this is not just about people being absolutely unhappy. There's some unhappiness there as well. And I don't go into all the details, but we have to talk about it, because the trend we're seeing is that people are looking at options, and they're thinking, and at least looking at the options to leave, and competitors will be really aggressive in recruitment. So there'll be lots of big options out there to recruit as well. So it's going to become competitive for anyone who is in charge of retention and leading teams and hiring teams as well. And of course, the other one, and you mentioned that a lot, and that's why I'm picking it up, is the world around us has changed. And we know that we're not going back to the way it was. Some of us will stay completely, working remotely, and actually now having distributed teams. There are some of you here who have distributed teams, and others have sort of a bit of a hybrid world. And what we're seeing is that actually at Leaders, we're still not doing it well. And that's not to judge anyone. This is all new for us. But this is about, learning from each other, best practice, because guess what? It is about, engagement, very, very much so. Of course, there are other factors as well, and I'll go into that. But, here are some numbers. And so the problems we are seeing, so I've interviewed, especially for this webinar I did in December, I interviewed dozens of people who are leaders and HR practitioners. So people like you who are consultants, and a lot of HR practitioners. And the problems they are seeing, so what we are seeing at the moment is there is a fear of losing the best people to competition, and I mentioned this before. That there's a lack of engagement, and that's what you mentioned. Yeah, some of you mentioned, how do I actually lead new team members? How do we lead well in a virtual world? We're actually missing the contact. You know, how can we do this well and understand each other? Often there's no budget for bonus or pay rise. This goes back to the whole sort of retention problem. And if there's no budget for bonus and pay rises, yeah, how can we use, you know, engagement and other incentives for employee experience? And of course, increased workloads. And again, you know, some of you mentioned this, you know, there's a lot of burnout in work communities at the moment. And what I find is that, you know, and one of you said, actually, you know, there's this focus on performance, but not on the team that performs. And it's absolutely right. And that's not just about the organization, that's about the skills the leader has to manage that part. And of course, you know, the post-COVID return to the office reality, what does that look like? And that's different for all of you. But what happens is there's a good consent about offering flexibility from every organization that I speak to, but it doesn't translate into the culture that's then being created in that particular office or in that particular team. And it's often about the conversation of the team leader to go, okay, so there are a certain amount of days, or, you know, how is it going to work for you? And how can we actually now create the culture that's the foundation of making this work? So very much in line what you mentioned. And today the focus is sort of a little bit more on engagement in terms of solution, but happy to talk about the other solution as well. I'm going to give you some more stats here, and every one of you who's detail oriented, this says something about your DISC profile. You like detail, you like numbers, you like the proof for something, to make sure that you know I know what I'm talking about, and there's some accuracy behind my words as well. So you're going to love it. And some of you go like, oh my God, stop with the numbers. You know, I get it. There's workload. So, you know, you can sort of glance over that. And, you know, it's important to know for you as a leader, again, you know, some of you work with DISC, you know, detail oriented, bigger picture. So here's 4 detail oriented. So workloads, here's some stats, yeah. Hours have increased 14% since last year. This is an Adecco survey from 2021, late 2021. So this is still valid. So hours have increased 14% since last year, with 63% of workers working over 40 hours per week. So people are burnt out, and it's time to change. And of course, it's got to come from the organization, but it really is up to leaders to manage this. And how do you have the conversation? And sometimes it's about picking up. And I know, and Belinda, you said like, yeah, but we're having, you know, surveys and good conversations. When we are in this new world and we have new employees, often it's about that one-on-one conversation, you know, and I'm not saying that you're doing anything wrong, I'm just picking up on some of the challenge you're seeing. And it is about making people feel comfortable enough that they can talk about, look, actually, I'm struggling. You know, this is a lot. And for your employees to have, and your team members to have enough trust and psychological safety in the team to be able to admit this kind of stuff. That's part of the problem. The other one, of course, then is mental health. So 3 in 10, so that's 32%, say their mental health has declined in the last 12 months. Oops. Yeah, and 67% of non-managers say that leaders don't meet the expectations of checking on well-being. So again, you know, there are lots of conversations around mental health and well-being, but how good are the leaders to pick up on it, tune into it, have that tough conversation? Because if someone is not doing well, that's a tough conversation to have, and leaders need the skills. And sometimes it's, of course, also the problem that, you know, organizations are the creator of the problem, then put out well-being programs, yet there's no time to do it, yeah, because there's too much workload and a focus on performance rather than, you know, the individual. And again, you know, what is in your control as a leader is having the conversations, you know, up and down. But even the openness from what that stat says is, you know, to have that conversation about mental health, there's still a big lack of that. So for, you know, everyone here who's a coach and a consultant as well, to, you know, look into some of that work around with your clients. When it is about career opportunities, again, this is for everyone who, leads teams. Just 34% of non-managers are satisfied with their career projects at their company. And if they are, and they don't, have a prospect of a bonus, they're going to be snapped up very quickly by the competition. And what we find when I then talk to HR leaders or, team leaders, the question is, how well do our leaders know what opportunities are there? Where's the connection between HR and line managers? And how do they know, how well do they know their own teams? How do they pick up on this? Because they're often unset conversations, they're water cooler conversations that are not happening right now. And how do you have the conversation about a career opportunity, if it is, only somewhat in your control? What can you do? Are you brave enough and do you have the skills to have those conversations and pick up on it? And of course, when it comes to, remote teams, 7 in 10, so that's 71%, say working remotely more than they did before the pandemic will be important to them. But we all just said, actually, we have, this issue of like, well, how do we do this well? There is a discrepancy of, a flexibility and hybrid work cultures and setups. There's, a big tick. Yes, we're happy to do that. But it doesn't translate into the culture at the moment, because are we doing a good job of it? No, I think there's a lot to learn. And again, it has a lot to do, with engagement. So Lyn says, if only 34% are satisfied, that is a major issue with staff shortages in many sectors, especially in WA. Absolutely. And we see this everywhere, Lyn, right? The stats are not lying. We're delayed in Australia, but I think that, that notion of at least, looking at, being dissatisfied and looking at alternatives is definitely there. So I know the great, resignation is, already a word with people like, oh, sick of hearing it, but the problems are there. And you mentioned some of these challenges. Flexibility in way of autonomy. So 3 in 4, so that's 75% think it's important to retain flexibility over their own schedule. And I did a blog on this actually in a newsletter. It's not just about saying, so there's flexibility, come into the office 2 days and it's a Tuesday and a Thursday and the rest is from home. What employees want is the autonomy to work whenever they want, whenever they want, wherever they want, and have a more outcome-driven workplace culture. Now, that's obviously difficult to achieve, and it's a big transformation, and that is leader-led. That needs to come from leaders. And, there are lots of models, but there is a real skill to it. And, within coaching, we often talk to leaders. They're like, how am I going to manage this? What kind of conversations are you having with your team? If you don't want to mandate, you need to be able to influence them, understand how they work, how others work, and be able to bring them together. If there's no trust and no engagement, it's really, really tricky to drive output, driven results. So again, all about engagement. And again, DISC is a fantastic tool as a startup conversation. And then it comes to development. And again, development is something that's such a great offering to keep employees engaged. And if we can't offer too much on, bonus or pay increase or, a straight up promotion, development is really important. So just 37% of non-managers believe their company is effectively investing in developing their skills. And when you use DISC as a tool and workshops and, one-on-one conversations, that helps your team members to create self-awareness, become more aware of others' high preferences, and being able to create a culture with increased engagement and leaning into each other. So it's a fantastic tool that you can use. And the question sometimes is, and I know some of you work for slightly larger organizations as well, are leaders aware of what development opportunities are actually there? I work with a large IT company, and the employees are really seeking development, but often the buck stops with their line manager. So, where in the organization is it, is it not flowing? But, as I said, DISC, fantastic tool to start with this. And of course, work culture, which is so important. So 74% say, and it's again, it's still the same Adecco survey here, 74% say it's important for managers to promote and nurture strong team morale and culture, but only 37% of non-managers say, so we're talking about non-leaders, so employees, say their manager is encouraging a good work culture. These are staggering numbers, and they come out of, a survey with 50,000 people, I think, globally. And when we look at, work culture, it's such a, culture is a word that's thrown around so much. And, what does it actually mean? To me, it really is about what happens in an organization or in the team. It's about the quality of the conversations, the behaviors, so the guiding principles of what behavior is encouraged and what behavior, is not accepted, and the decisions are made and how people, follow their workflow and, and fulfill their job. But it's very much about how people engage with each other. That makes work culture. And we have to equip our leaders with the skills to be able to deepen that, the quality of conversations, being able to recognize to, others' preferences. That's why I already said in terms of DISC, for me to, sort of read the room. Some of you prefer, to be more focused on detail, others more on people. Some of you are, fast and active and bigger picture, and some of you are more calm and methodical. And being able for a leader to use that knowledge out of this to be able to create a workplace culture that's inclusive and understanding and increases those conversations and guiding behaviors, is a huge transformation. So what I'm saying is that when it comes to the employee experience journey, and looking at the challenges that you brought today, and a lot of them are about that new world and virtual, which just exasperates the need to truly connect, being able to tap into our introverts, making sure there's airtime, making sure we cater for both, bigger picture and detail, the length of our meetings, or, how many we have. I think, Andrea, you said actually, all of a sudden we had more meetings, but shorter. Super, that works. There's so many technical and practical tips we can use, but it comes down how well we do team engagement. And engagement has been identified especially over the last 5 years, as the biggest driver of growth. And I'm not just saying growth in terms of performance and growth of organizations, in terms of growth when it comes to creating and building effective leaders and developing them and developing high performance teams. Engagement is the number one. And I'm just going to have a look at the time quickly. Yeah, we're good in time. So team engagement is a big part, and some of you said, really looking forward to seeing the DISC tool. So instead of me talking just about how it works, I actually want to dive into, what DISC helps with when it comes to team engagement. I'm just going to open the chat box there. Okay, no problem, Carmel. We'll send you the recording as well if you want to see the rest of it. No problem. It's to go. So what I want to show you is a team engagement value model, and this is really helpful for all of you. It doesn't matter if you work as a consultant and coach or if you work, with a team, because what I've found is when I work with leaders and teams to increase team engagement, I found that most people go through these levels of engagements. And for you, it'd be really interesting to see, okay, in terms of the organization or the particular team that you're leading, what is the level of engagement? So if engagement is your currency, if that's, your dominator of, how you grow, your culture, then it's important to see, okay, what is the level? And there's a focus, and you can see in the last column, and we're talking about performance, not organizational performance. You can, though, you could make that combination, but for me it's team performance when it comes to engagement. So there are 5 different levels that you go through, and what you see is that, and what you find is that on the lowest level, and I'm pretty sure none of your teams, but I want you to think about, have you ever worked somewhere, because I have, the lowest level of engagement is destructive. And this is where there's literally no awareness. People are not aware of why they do what they do. They're certainly not aware of others. There is, a low level of emotional intelligence. So stress becomes the better of people all the time. And what you see is really toxic work cultures, underperformance, and high staff turnover. And if you find, if you work with a client, for example, as a coach, this is the level of engagement, then you need to actually start helping them to create self-awareness. So that's the focus here. So when you start creating self-awareness, that's when you get to the second level, which is, in terms of engagement, still disconnected. And when we have a disconnected engagement level, or when your team is on that level, people are, aware of their own behavior style. They probably know some of their own strengths, but the challenge is that there is a lack of awareness of others. And that, of course, means the team feels disconnected. There's no empathy. There's conflict, and that's not productive conflict. And the result is lack of productivity. People also then often work in silos. And quite often when I work with teams, I find there's really good performance individually because they're quite self-aware, but they don't work together. They're still disconnected. So the focus here on this level, if you're on level 2, needs to be increasing the awareness of others. So if there's awareness of others, what you find is that teams are quite connected. People are aware of why they do what they do. They know how to, they relate to other people. So they've got the knowledge of other people's behavior styles, and they can see that. And employees are, more connected, especially with similar styles. They find that easy. And there's a bit of a mutual understanding of, how to best interact. But it's still, on sort of a level of where you probably only have 25% of performance, because what you also still see is a level of conflict. There's still unproductive communications, because everyone is sort of, aware of themselves. They know there are, people do things differently. They have a different behavior style, so they react and communicate differently, but they don't know how to meet in the middle. So there's, there's still not that level there. And what really needs to do is people need to start controlling their behavior. So there's still that stress output there. And when there's a level of control of own behavior is when people are sort of, get to this sort of 4th level, engaged. And we think that's really what we want. Although one of you said, actually, it's about building cohesive teams, and that's right. So when people are engaged, there is probably what we call in DISC a developing level of emotional intelligence. People know how to control their own behavior, or manage their thoughts and emotions. It certainly looks engaged, so there's a positive culture, there's a high level of conversations, but you're still only at 50% because there is a lack of adapting to others. It's sort of still the preferred way of what they're doing. There is that lack of tapping into other people and meeting the other person where they are at to be able to move forward together. So the focus here needs to be to adapt to others. And only then, you're on level 5, which is the cohesive team. So here people are, they're good at self-awareness, awareness of others, and how to adapt and increase engagement. In DISC flow, we call this flexing. So I can remember the iceberg. I can read the body language, and I can tap into someone, what's happening emotionally by seeing their behavior, and I can understand where they come from. And then I can adapt my style, so I can speed up, slow down, be more detail oriented, give high level, whatever they need to be able to, be cohesive. So in a cohesive, engaging team, what you see is, so people work cohesively, there's great communication. And what we mean by that is it's not just, pleasantries. We can call on people, we can have robust conflict. There's high levels of trust. You think of Lencioni, where it all starts with trust, strong relationships, and developed emotional intelligence. And how that now fits in with, and I'll explain the DISC tool in a second, with emotional intelligence, because I talked about this a lot. So your knowledge is knowing, what are behavior styles? How does it actually all work? What are the theories behind it, and what psychology underpins that? What are the different behavior styles? How do I adapt? And then your skill is being able to actually do it, and that's your emotional intelligence. And with DISC flow, the beauty is that you have both combined. So when you look at this graph where it's about performance, and we could say performance as in team engagement, but it certainly shows up in the actual performance of organization goals as well. The higher the level of emotional intelligence, the higher the performance. And the way we work with DISC flow, now in DISC in general, but certainly with DISC flow, is you start with increasing self-awareness. Yeah. So if there's low emotional intelligence and low performance, start with creating self-awareness, then create awareness of others, being able to manage or control behavior and adapt to others. And they're the steps we use in DISC as well. And it always starts with self, others, and being able to adapt. And they are not foreign to you if you've done, emotional intelligence in your own practice or in your team. Creating and developing, emotional intelligence is all about that. And how it fits in, of course, with DISC, and when we look at engagements, a level of engagement with teams is being able to connect, engage, and then build cohesive teams. Now, so there's a bit of theory around it, and please note some questions because I want you to be able to really understand and what are the foundations, because this is the foundation, of DISC and especially DISC flow. So I'll talk about the tool a bit, and then I'll open up to the floor so we can see how this is helpful for you, next steps, but also, if there's any other questions, how you might be able to use this. So, for me, DISC flow, hottest team building tool in 2022 for sure. And, I mentioned before, I've used DISC for a long time. My first assessment in the 90s, and it placed me, my high preference was a high D for dominance. Yeah, so it was really results oriented, very direct. I was outgoing, very straightforward, impatient, like there's no tomorrow. And it was typical because I was a salesperson back then. And it shifted into, I still have some D in me because I'm active and fast-paced. Yeah, so dominance is sort of fast-paced and task-oriented. And I really shifted into, onto the right-hand side where it's more people-oriented now. But, I'm a blend of everything that's going on up here. What I struggle with, of course, is people who are, in compliance, and I don't have to, I'm not going to go too much into, the glossary of what all the words are, but, I struggle certainly mostly with people who are very detail oriented, who take a lot of time to, bring out their words or their ideas, and are, on the moderate pace. So I have to lean in, and I work with a lot of academics and engineers who have that preferred behavior style. So I have to lean myself in. I've used DISC for over 10 years. I got accredited in Hong Kong, and being a certified trainer, so you can, of course, just use DISC reports in your team and, and facilitate with it. But becoming certified, what that helped me, first of all, as a leader, to deeply understand the nuances of DISC, being able to adopt the skills, like a professional. It's like on steroids, instead of just understanding some of the, reports. But it also helped me, and I know some of you are consultants here, but it also helped me to help my clients better. Now, so for anyone who considers DISC to add or change, upgrade, or I say upskill from the traditional DISC model to DISC flow, have a think about it. DISC is such a practical tool. So the way it works is that your learners, your participants, your team members will do a self-assessment on their preferred high preference of behavior. Yeah, that gives them then a high level, a report that's rich with insights and a start of a conversation of understanding why they do what they do, being able to then have some practical tools in that report as well. How do we relate to other people with different behavior styles? Yeah, so we usually struggle with behavior styles that are right on the opposite of us. To not take that personally, because it's not about personality. It's about why we do what we do, especially when we're under pressure, and then being able to flex our own style to meet the other person where they're at and move forward together. So it really changed my whole life and my whole, view to the work I do with, engaging with people. And so DISC is not new. It's actually, as I said, behaviors go way back 400 BC, and the DISC tool started being developed, I think, in the 50s or 60s. It's the most used diagnostic tool, and DISC flow has been incepted about a year and a half ago. And the difference is it's based on the tested and tried DISC model of behaviours, but it includes in emotional intelligence as well. And especially the core report has a comprehensive report based on self-assessment on both. So for everyone who is interested, I'm going to have a quick video on becoming DISC certified, and then I'm just going to quickly go through the details before we open the floor, because I'm mindful that that's a lot more helpful for you.
Become a DISC Flow certified trainer. DISC Flow is a powerful and highly effective tool which can produce spectacular results. Using DISC Flow, you can easily recognize prominent behaviors such as strengths and limitations, communication styles, and even preferred work environments. As more organizations experience the benefits of DISC Flow, they recognize the importance of specialists who can integrate DISC into the company culture. Completing a DISC Flow certification signals a proven level of capability and knowledge, handing you the tools to embed positive change at an individual, team, and organizational level. As a DISC Flow certified trainer, you'll be the go-to expert to help your clients succeed. Certification also provides access to tools that will enable you to craft solutions for leadership, management, sales, conflict resolution, and team development. You'll receive comprehensive training that will equip you with the knowledge and resources to confidently embed DISC Flow in any individual or team intervention. The course is designed to prepare you to facilitate sessions on your own and interpret the reports to provide meaningful and powerful feedback. As part of the certification, you'll receive an introduction to DISC Flow presentation and other digital learning tools, your own DISC Flow core profile to use on the day, and an online account to manage your company's own DISC Flow profiles. If you or your colleagues are looking to become a DISC Flow certified trainer, contact us for more information. DISC Flow, where knowledge and skills combine. Get started with the DISC Flow model today.
So where knowledge and skill combine, of course, is the knowledge is DISC, and skill is your emotional intelligence, and only DISC Flow has both components. Very quickly, so you basically have 4 by 2 hour lunch sessions for WA to be a 9 to 11 a.m. at the moment, depending on daylight savings, but in February it'd be 9 to 11. There's some pre-work, work in between. You're going to get your own reports, of course. In the actual training we do to certify you, you will wear a participant hat. So you experience DISC and you wear a trainer hat. So here's what it looks like when you work with your team or your client. You will also then get, of course, when you've finished, there's an exam, you get access to all the resources. So you're going to have a whole stack of Dropbox folders with resources to be able to run trainings, and you have a one-on-one follow-up session with me as well. Here's just some of the reasons why, the certification is of benefit. But of course, looking at, we have both in the room, if you lead a team and you work in an organization, it's for your own development. It's be able to develop people in your organization. You can, of course, use it outside as well. And as a coach and consultant, it's being able to have the edge to be able to work with your clients. I weave DISC into so many conversations and so many of the interventions, workshops, and coachings I do. There's a level of reports. There's a portrait report, which is sort of your starter report, but for big groups. It doesn't have emotional intelligence. The core report then includes emotional intelligence. There's a leader report, again, that people don't do another assessment. It's the same assessment, but the language is around how they relate to other people and how they lead people. And then there's the connect and the group report that you can then draw. Connect is comparing to people. So when you have conflict or you put people together on a project, it compares their behavior style. And a group report is, of course, for intact teams and diverse groups. There are many, many points, why you should become a DISC certified, of course, the inclusions, and they're all listed here, but it really helps you to, and I'm not going to go through them in detail, but of course, that it helps you to be able to increase engagement, understand why people do what they do, and you can read that in your own time. We have a question. you have another meeting. Okay, no problem. Let's chat to you soon, Lyn. Yeah, and this is it from me. Just the details. And of course, we're launching a new LMS. What I want to tell you that our next intake is Tuesday 8th, Thursday 10th, Tuesday 15th, Thursday 17th. So 4 lunch sessions. It's $1,995. For BWA members, you get 5% discount. So use DiscFlow BWA. And here's the link, and I'm going to put that in the chat as well if you want to sign up. So I'm going to stop sharing now because I want to know from you, and we still have Carrie, Belinda, Andrea, and Ellen here. What takeaways do you have and what questions do you have when it comes to tools to be able to increase engagement, but also maybe something DISC specific?
Certainly, if I can jump in, Jess, it's sort of bringing up a lot of great ideas for me. You know, I work with clients across so many different industries and sectors, different sizes. Some are international and some are very local and small, mainly engineering, legal, accounting, finance and medical. And I'm just thinking about, you know, the thing that's really struck me is this importance for the leaders to have self-awareness now, because they're facing so many uncertainties. They're under a lot of pressure, a lot of stress, worrying about each one of their team members, you know, the different vulnerabilities within their teams. You know, some of their team members can't get vaccinated. They can't, you know, they're very vulnerable. And so the incredible pressure for a leader, it gives them something, I think, in that journey to be able to fully understand yourself in order to build a highly engaged team. It gives them something really concrete to work with that sounds like it's very simple and got a lot of opportunity for them to then start then with their own leadership teams. So with my, you know, my managing partners or managing directors, if they can actually then work with their executive teams and have their executive teams then understanding, that will then, to me, I think it needs to start at that level. Yeah. And then they go and work with their managers, and so that it becomes really led by the top. And this is the challenge I'd like to put out to, you know, all the leaders in the Business Women Australia community and many of our supporters who, you know, we've got males and females in our community that are following a lot of what we're doing and a lot of what we're exploring and what we're standing for. And I think this is the call out that I'd like to make to all, you know, the people at the top of their organisations. This is not just something to, you know, to give to your team managers, you know, in the middle level, important, you know, sort of area of that operational aspect, but it's also, if not more important, but just as important for the executives to be actually investing in this. And you never stop learning. You know, I've been in CEO roles and across a range of industries through my career, and having done some of this work myself just in the last few years, which I've done in the past. I've done a lot of profile work before, but I've never stopped learning, and I've actually changed. So what I was like and how I knew myself and how my behaviours were and what was working for me, you know, 10, 15 years ago is not relevant anymore. It's not serving, you know, it hasn't been serving me. And I can say that the feedback I've been getting from my own team and from those who are working with me, my clients, is that they are so, that, you know, they can see the difference in my behaviour.
Yeah.
So, you know, what worked for us before really needs to be revisited, and we have to unlearn. You know, I love the quote in the book, in your first book. What's the quote? It's not about leading or whatever. It's not about knowing everything. It's about our ability to unlearn, to unpack, to let go, to relearn, and to keep that cycle going. And I just love that quote. It just really resonates with me.
Yeah, lifelong learners. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I love that you're very humble about, you know, we always have to unlearn and then relearn. And I agree with you. It's got to start at the top of the organization if you want to make a culture shift, right? You know, because the shift of people, you know, creating self-awareness, awareness of others, tapping in, and then, you know, leaning in and flexing, you know, it's like a process, right? And it only works when it's cascaded from, from the top, because culture means what are the accepted behaviors, what do you want to champion, and what do we not want to see? And engagement is all around how we behave, right? So yeah, I absolutely love that feedback, Lyn. And a lot of you said, well, the world has changed, it's all virtual now, how can we translate that? And again, using DISC, because DISC is, the report, DISC is DISC, it's an assessment, it's a report, doesn't do anything by itself, right? It's about how you as a team leader or as a consultant, coach, then use it, bring it into the team, go like, okay, let's have a startup conversation. What does it actually look like in your day-to-day life? That's how we need to, work with that. How's it helping you? What's hindering you? And how do you lean in? So all of the exercises you then workshop around, with that once you're certified, is where it comes to life and makes it rich. Carrie, you put yourself off mute.
Yeah, I was just going to jump in there and say, I think it's the bee's knees. It's something that is just been woven through my work processes for many, many years. I was very lucky to be, put through it. When I used to work in the pharmaceutical industry, they were very, very big on DISC. And so I went through with my team as a rep, as a manager, as a regional manager. But you're quite right. Like if it comes all the way through, then it's similar. People talk the right language and you don't get that people putting people in boxes and say, yeah, you're D and you do this or whatever. So it's about, but it weaves into problem solving. It weaves into decision making, inclusion, diversity, and everybody in a team really feeling valued, because they know that for a team to be cohesive, you need some of every one of those qualities, and we all bring something. So I love it, and I would very much suggest that if anyone can go there, that they do, because it's life-changing, I think.
Yeah, I think it's life-changing as well. Thanks, Kerry. Andrea, what was in there for you? You were looking for sort of some tips, some encouragement. You may not have a team in your new role and you're moving, there's a lot of change. What was in there for you that stood out and helped you today?
I liked how you said how you can be aware of what style you are, and then knowing by assessing other people's personalities within your team or people you work with, how you can adapt. So I think you used the word flex, which I liked. So having the emotional intelligence to change how you might naturally be. So I thought that was like a really good takeaway.
Great. Thanks, Andrea. And what about you, Belinda? You've worked with DISC a little bit. You did a program where DISC was part of it, although we didn't do the reports, but we looked at the different behaviour styles in each of the quadrants. What was new for you today and most helpful?
Yeah, same as what Andrea said, that just around that, I think it's more understanding how to deal with different personalities and how other people work within the business and being able to adapt to that. I think that's, as I said, with us growing so much, you've got such a variable between different team members and everything. So that's something that definitely would be beneficial for sure.
Yeah. Can you see using the DISC assessment and the reports as part of your culture and running some development sessions with the team?
Yes, I think so, because I think there's a lot of it with the growth. Then from what I see, there needs to be more responsibility from our different teams within the business. So I think that's where that could really benefit, because everyone will know where their strong points are as well, and where they can help, whereas what someone's really good at, someone else in the team wouldn't be, but they can pick up on something else that they're strong in. So I think, like for instance, our support team we're sitting at 8-10, at the moment with our client manager team. So that alone is full of resources, but they still work very individually at times. So
yeah, I can totally see you facilitating, using and facilitating it everywhere. I can so see you being very much. It'd be such a great tool for you to add to your own, leadership belt as well.
For sure. Yeah. Oh yeah, and just that internal learning. We're never. So no one's perfect, and you can always learn. And as Lyn said too, with the unlearning of things, there's so much that you sort of do and you think works well, and then you go, oh, hang on a minute, I need to extract that and try it a different way.
Exactly. Amazing. Thank you, Belinda.
There
We are coming to the pointy end. Lyn, do you want to close off the session today, and then we are going to let you get on with your busy days?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, thank you, Jess. Always time well spent listening to you and tapping into the incredible experience and the insights and the expertise that you bring to the table. And we know that you're very highly sought after. Your charge out rate is phenomenal. We could never afford to to pay and charge what all your clients are having to do. So the Business Women Australia community is very, very grateful for you to spend this time with us. And it's such an important message, I think, that you bring to the table. You know, the awareness of self is the key starting place in the journey to being able to build highly engaged teams. And I think, you know, that really sums it up for me. And certainly my takeaway is that my ability to see and to understand and control my own thinking, to understand what it is that makes up who I am and what I am, and what my sort of under pressure sort of style is, that's going to help me to really consider more consciously the actions that I choose to actually do and behave to be. So, you know, a lot of it's around that awareness, and then it's around the choice. And I think, you know, in your model around control of, you know, I think, you know, that having that ability and the awareness gives us those choices to control our behaviours and to just take us just a step and say, hey, I know this is kind of, you know, this person actually needs me to be stopping and listening and being a little slower, because, you know, like you, Jess, I'm probably high D. All my clients are in a compliance world. They're, you know, medical engineers, legal, accounting and tech. Their compliance is massive in their way of thinking. They're very detailed people. I'm sure in some ways that having me around is a bit of a novelty in some regards too, so that's also nice. I also need to be okay with being myself, but also being very aware of when they need me to just let them work through things and provide them with the information, the data, the analysis that they need to feel safe in their decisions. So thank you so much. You've really demonstrated all those things. As always, highly aware you are, Jess. We love you to bits, and we will look forward to the starting. I want to do that DISC Flow accreditation too, but I'm going to do that when I finish this diploma of my coaching. So I'll be joining at the end of this year to do my accreditation, because I want that in my toolkit.
Absolutely. One thing at a time, Lyn.
Yeah,
amazing.
Thank you so much.
We'll be in touch with all of you to see how we can, you know, give you a hand with anything as well. We'll send out an email tomorrow. And yeah, thank you so much for joining, and hopefully to see you all again soon.
Thanks, Jess.
Nice to see everyone. Bye.
See you later.